Okay, I'm gonna have to re-record this because the last time my phone storage was just loaded, so the video didn't even record. But I want to talk a little bit about the Trump-Kim summit in Hanoi. I would be lying if I didn't say I was not disappointed. I think that, yeah, you do want him to come back with something more tangible than to say, well, I had to walk away. I wanted more to happen, but you have to take into account that not every not every meeting ends with a good result. Okay, sometimes you go somewhere and you try to come to terms with somebody, but there's what are called irreconcilable differences. And the fact is that people were cheering the entire day, hoping that Trump would come away with them from the summit, while they were also cheering for Michael Cohen to to drag him down out of office. But they were cheering on the one hand for him to fail in North Korea, which they're claiming he now did. On the other hand, they were saying that if he does sign a deal, he'll basically be signing a crappy deal that will be easy to violate and will actually not help reach actual peace in North Korea. And then they want to say now, well, this isn't The Apprentice. What happened to Art of the Deal? That's their angle. They don't want him to succeed because they don't actually care if the country succeeds. They don't actually care if the world succeeds, because if things happen that are positive, they're out of a job. And they have to admit that somebody that they don't like is doing kind of well. And it makes me think, okay, what about all those other leaders that are supposedly the defenders of the real world order, the liberal world order, the liberal democratic post World War II world order? Who are those people? You have Angela Merkel, who is basically trying to salvage an Iran nuclear deal that was violated by Iran, because and not only was it, like, even if you say it's not violated, why isn't Iran testing intercontinental ballistic missiles after they signed a treaty where they were claiming, well, we're not going to pursue nuclear weapons? They were doing that under Obama as well. So where's your standards then? If you thought that the Trump deal, the Trump Kim summit was a bad idea, then where were you during the Iran nuclear deal, which they're still trying to salvage through Angela Merkel and some of these other countries in Europe? The Iranians have been violating the deal all along, and moreover, they've been aggressively getting into other regions of they've been intervening in other countries. The Iran nuclear deal only dealt with nuclear weapons. It didn't actually deal with resolving any of the other conflicts in the Middle East, where the U.S. and Iran are at odds. I would be in favor of a summit on that. I would be in favor of Trump being able to negotiate with Iran. I don't think it's going to happen, because I don't think Iran is committed to pursuing that type of foreign policy. They're still a confrontational country, and in some ways so are we with Iran. Okay, not to get too far into that. Another issue that I see with the liberal world order people, they say, well, Trump is so bad at diplomacy. What about Theresa May, who can't even come to a trade deal with the European Union, which is another so-called liberal democratic country, right? What about that? You don't think that's a little funny that you're pointing at Trump, who's trying to negotiate with a dictator whose nation has never negotiated with the U.S. before and has always been kind of closed in and dependent on China or Russia? That is an accomplishment. But the British can't even come to a trade deal with the EU, and neither of the British leaders, whether it's Theresa May or Jeremy Corbyn, can get their parties to agree on what's going to happen with Brexit. So these people are, who is the big diplomatic genius of our times if Trump is so bad? So you can probably hear the intercom over here. I'm outside the supermarket. In any case, so while I'm still on Uygur ObnoxiouScope, So a lot of these people who are on the center left, you know, the liberal media, people who write for Salon or whatever, they're crowing about Donald Trump coming away from a summit empty-handed, while at the same time they're rooting for him to be dragged through the mud yesterday with Michael Cohen, which was a joke. And now that he did walk away from the deal, when they said that he might walk away from with a bad deal, they're also happy. They don't want actual success. If a good deal had been reached, they would have nitpicked it to death. So it doesn't make any difference. You can't satisfy these people because they're not in it in order to report the news. They're in the news business in order to project their own feelings on the rest of the world. That's why with the Venezuela situation, okay, they are now in favor of intervention in Venezuela, but they're in favor of intervention in Venezuela while not actually talking about the real problems of how Venezuela got the way that it has, okay? And also they are still on this whole nonsense about how Trump is attacking the press, he's limiting a free press or whatever. When has Donald Trump basically confiscated a reporter's camera and kicked him out of the country or detained them for a few hours because they showed him a video that he didn't like Maduro did? Now, for a couple of days, people were saying, oh, Jorge Ramos is wrong, what happened to him or whatever, but really think about that. They never, ever, ever stood up for a free press when it came to Maduro, okay, until then, okay, they would, if you read some of the online published written articles, yeah, there's some stuff about Maduro and Chavez and how they would restrict the press, but it's really kind of superficial. And another thing is, if you talk about the people who are still anti-interventionist, which I happen to be against intervention in Venezuela, but the majority of people who are anti-interventionist on the left, they don't have any problem with Venezuela being interventionist. Venezuela is an interventionist in other countries. They have funded other hardcore left-wing social democratic movements or democratic socialist movements in Latin America. But when those don't work, they also fund guerrillas like the ones in Colombia, the ELN, the National Liberation Army, as it's called, and FARC, the Armed Forces for the Revolution in Colombia. They do fund those. So either you're against intervention or you're not against intervention. They're not against intervention when it comes to promoting revolution and workers' rights and whatever. That's not intervention for them, even though those movements are taking monies from their sympathetic leaders. People like Maduro, people like Fidel Castro, or the Castro regime. Fidel Castro was dead by now. And they were complaining last year, I'm back to the liberal centrists, about how Trump was coddling dictators, and Obama was criticized right and left about how he talks to, about how he talked to Castro. Where's the standards? How come you attacked Obama for it? The difference is that with Castro, what do we get from ending the embargo with Cuba? We didn't get anything. Cuba didn't even have nukes. Cuba is not really much of a national security threat compared to a country that might even have a hydrogen bomb and be able to wipe out several countries and possibly reach our own country. There's a huge difference there. Okay? There's a huge difference. You can't just say, well, it's not about being a dictator. It's about negotiating for tangible things. And there's nothing tangible to be gained from ending our hostile relationship with Cuba. In my opinion, we could have just lifted the embargo without reestablishing relations. Who cares? What does the embargo gain you anyway? Without an embargo, Cuba still is a dump. Why give them an excuse to blame the embargo like they always do? By the way, Cuba can trade with the rest of the world, even though they can't trade with us. So you have other countries under embargo that seem to do fine, and yet Cuba can't sort itself out. Could it be because of the system, and could it be because of their limiting of real entrepreneurship or whatever? It's basically a country that's stuck in the 1960s. And apart from that, they'll also point at leaders. It's all about people that they hate on a personal / ideological basis. They don't actually point at the proof of anything that they're doing as being the reason that they hate them. Okay, they accused Netanyahu of being a war crime. I'm bringing this up today because Netanyahu was just indicted on charges of fraud and I believe on a number of other financial crimes. That's not a dictator. People call him a dictator all the time, an autocrat. He's subverting democracy over there. He's just been indicted by his own government. I'm not a fan of Netanyahu, but I'm saying that if you want to call him a dictator, how is it that his government can indict him, put him on trial, and probably kick him out of office without Parliament, the Knesset, doing anything to do that, without a military coup, without any sort of public demonstration? It doesn't make any sense. Excuse me. I'm about to cough up the lung. Anyway, you should see this soon. Please like, subscribe, share, and also subscribe to me on BitChute and on SoundCloud, CocoScope too if you want. And I'll talk to you guys later. All the links should be in the description later if this video does upload, because I'll have to see if it'll work. Bye-bye.